My presentation is on what methodologies are best suited for second language learners. For my research, I wanted to focus on language acquisition. And to start off with this, I wanted to start off with a quote from the Linguist Society of America that was quoted in 2023, which states that children acquire language through interaction, not only with their parents and other adults, but also with other children. All normal children who grow up in normal households surrounded by conversation will acquire language that is being used around them. And I thought this is a very important foundation to start on, moving forward with the presentation. Inuktitut in Nunavut. The background information on Inuktitut in Nunavut include that 65% of Inuit use Inuktitut as their first language throughout Nunavut. This means that the majority of the people living in the territory use a mother language, as their first language, as opposed to the norms throughout all of Canada, which include English and French. But here in Nunavut, that is not the case. Most Inuit have Inuktitut as their first language. Also, every year, the amount of Inuktitut-speaking Inuit decreased by 1%. This was stated by Guter in 2018. This statement shows the big importance of language acquisition and the reason and the push for us to make sure that we are doing everything that we can to save the language. This is the grade 1 Inuktitut classroom in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut. In this classroom, the majority of the students have Inuktitut as a second language, which is opposed to the previous fact that 65% of Inuit in Nunavut have Inuktitut as their first language. Here in this grade 1 classroom, Inuktitut is the second language. How can we start to preserve our languages now? What can we do now so that in the future these great languages are saved, preserved, and strengthened? And I thought I can do an experiment in the grade 1 Inuktitut classroom using the audio-lingual language teaching. The audio-lingual language teaching looks like dialogue. It includes repetition. We need to drill information into the students, and there is memorization involved with this type of teaching. I wanted to compare this type of teaching to the communicative language teaching. In the communicative language teaching looks like role play. It looks like interview. It looks like group work, information gap. It looks like opinion sharing. And it looks like a scavenger hunt. I wanted to compare a very much teacher-led, which is the audio-lingual language teaching, to a more inclusive and more child-friendly type of teaching, which is the communicative language teaching. And I wanted to see which one would work best for students who are learning their mother tongue as a second language in our classrooms today in Rinken and Nunavut, which I believe is comparable to other native language throughout Canada. The following figure here is a figure that I took after doing a audio-lingual teaching in the grade 1 Inuktitut classroom. This is the outcome from me watching the YouTube video from our course that we took throughout the weeks about audio-lingual teaching. After watching the YouTube video that you can click on the link for here, Cape York Partnership 2015, it had me wondering, I wonder if audio-lingual teaching would work in a Inuktitut grade 1 classroom. This was the first lesson that I did for the whole experiment. The star here that you can see under the second picture on the whiteboard, there is just that one star. That one star indicates that there was one student who was able to say one word throughout the whole lesson in Inuktitut on their own. Continuing on with the audio-lingual language teaching in the grade 1 Inuktitut classroom, the figure here was the second session 2 days after the first. This was the second session. The students were somewhat used to the outcome, the expectation, and what was to come. With this one, you may notice that there are 3 stars compared to the 1 star. The 3 stars indicate that 3 students were able to say those one words in each picture. With this round, I was thinking, okay, I know we need to encourage these children, so I use Skittles. Comparing to the communicative language learning, here you will see the figure that I have put. This was the first lesson for the communicative language learning. In here, the small flashcards are verbs. The first one on the left, the first flashcard on the left says push. It has the picture push of pushing, and the word here is ayaksi in the flashcard. And we added some parts of the Inuktitut language. Above there is the yunga. I wanted the children to be able to correctly say what they are doing. So the verb ending yunga, which is located at the top left above the blue line, written in blue, and the meaning of dunga, which is located above the blue line, written in blue on the right. This verb means this is what I am doing. I am. This is the meaning. I am. Yunga dunga. I am. And I thought that students would be able to perhaps pick this up a little easier than the other type of teaching, which was the audio-lingual teaching. And with this, I had also had the students act out after making the words the Inuktitut sentence for each action. So what happened here is I asked the students to go into their personal space. In grade 1, we call it bubble spot. Here, the students pretended to push someone, as seen as the first word on the left side, ayaksiyunga, and I had the students repeat that inuktitut word, ayaksiyunga. They created the word with me, they said the word with me, and I had them say the word on their own, acting out this flashcard. In the continuing on with the communicative language learning, this was the second communicative language learning lesson that we did. This was done about a week after the first communicative learning. This word here, the symbols above the black line are ya, which is on the left, and ra, which is on the right. These two suffixes, parts of the speech, make the noun your possessive noun. For example, on the left, the first word under the line is ananaga. This means my mother. To the far left, those are the starting noun words that we started off with. I had asked the students to place them under the correct suffix. After the first two examples of the first two words on each side, the students understood where to put each word. For this one, I did the lesson this way because I wanted the students to start talking in Inuktitut at least a little bit by little bit. If they can say ananaga, or like the word on the left, the last word, imiutiga, which means my water bottle. Imiutiga, my water bottle. I thought we can go further if they start right off the basics, if they start at the simple building blocks of speaking in Inuktitut. During these lessons of the communicative language learning, I found that the students were more eager and they were more engaged and they were more willing to say these short sentences in Inuktitut. The findings from the experiment and research that I did, using the audio-lingual form of teaching, I found that the classroom was very quiet. The students were paying attention, the students were silent, and the students were not talking at all. Prior to the lesson, I had asked the students to listen and speak in Inuktitut only for the half hour that we were doing the audio-lingual session. With the audio-lingual type of teaching, with practice, we can get there. I found that when the students first tried to use this type of teaching and learning, it was a lot to take in because it was so new. However, they can get there with practice. During the audio-lingual teaching, I found that the top students did not get it. They were sitting there, they were absorbing it, but they were not able to speak in Inuktitut when I had asked them. The students spoke into Inuktitut at home, however, I noticed got it right away. It was easier for these students to speak in Inuktitut in the classroom. The second time around when we did the audio-lingual teaching, the students did try harder. I believe they tried harder because they saw the incentive from the first round. After the first session, I gave that one student who had said that one Inuktitut word, praise. I gave her a shiny new pencil, and I gave her a card to send home because she was the star student of the week. The students also had Skittles to look forward to. They loved the praise in grade 1, and they all wanted to be the best student. Even without the sweets and the pencil and the card going home, the incentive to praise the child highly alone could have done the job. There is great potential with the audio-lingual teaching. The students were engaged, they were quiet, they were soaking it all in. However, I believe there needs to be prior vocabulary for this to work well. Had the students known common words and phrases in Inuktitut, this session from the beginning would have been great. It would have been a very good stepping stone for the students to start expanding their Inuktitut vocabulary more. After doing the audio-lingual teaching practice, I wanted to compare it to the communicative language learning. In the communicative language learning, I found that the students were very engaged. They were ready to learn. They were half off their seats. They were leaning forward. They had their hands going up. They all wanted to answer, compared to all of them being quiet before with the audio lingual session. These words that we used in the communicative language learning were shorter, so it was easier for the students to use these words and sentences. And these words and short sentences are doable for this age group. They can do it, they can say the words. It's a matter of a little bit of practice. In my classroom, we use a point system where the more they use Inuktitut in the classroom on their own, the more points they get, which leads to a class party. With communicative language learning, they can get these points faster compared to the audio lingual teaching, because in the communicative language learning, these blocks are smaller for the students and they are able to carry these easier rather than long, full, perfect sentences in the audio lingual learning. The shorter sentences, the easier to remember for the students, and I can see that they are starting to think more in Inuktitut. They are starting to use short words that we practice in with from this communicative language learning. With more time and practice with these types of lessons, we are able to use them more throughout the day, meaning the communicative language learning, we are able to use sentences in any subject area much easier than in the audio lingual learning. Because in the audio lingual learning, the sentences are long, they're structured, as opposed to the communicative language learning. Moving forward, the communicative language learning should be used first before trying the audio lingual teaching. This may be applicable to all native languages or all languages um, for people who are learning their second language. I find that the communicative language learning is engaging, they're having fun, and it's okay to make a mistake, and it's easier to fix these mistakes with this type of teaching. Also, students are more engaged in the communicative language learning because the words are shorter, they are easier to say, as opposed to the audio lingual learning where it is very formal, very proper. The audio lingual is more ideal for home or one-on-one. With this type of environment, it can work very well. It can lead to students who are very fluent in the second language that they are learning. Or perhaps after some practice, this type of teaching can be done in a whole class setting once the students have more background information on the language that they are learning. I have begun to use the communicative language teaching in my classroom, and I use it as an everyday practice for the language arts program I am doing in my classroom. The first half hour we focus on writing, journal writing, and the second half hour to 20 minutes, depending on the day, is on this type of learning with the communicative language learning, where I teach the students how to say short sentences in Inuktitut and how to build words in and sentences in Inuktitut that they are able to say, that they have heard multiple times throughout the day, at school, and at home, because these sentences are easy, they are simple. And fortunately, there was a day that my principal had observed my classroom. She was sitting there and she was absorbing it out all in. She does not speak Inuktitut, but she was starting to understand how Inuktitut works, and she was applauding the type of teaching we have been doing in the grade one classroom, and it's principal approved in my school. I also want to move forward with the students when they have a better grasp of the Inuktitut language. I want to use audiolingual as a challenge or the next step forward for the students. Once they are able to confidently speak a little bit of Inuktitut, I know with the audiolingual teaching, it will help them build their vocabulary and it'll strengthen their knowledge in Inuktitut. I, I thank you for watching my presentation. These are my two emails. The first email is my personal email, apolina.makikaka@gmail.com. I check this every day. There may be times that I'm not replying right away because we have busy lives. The second email is for my Queen's email. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions or comments about anything we have been learning about. I thank you, Koyen Namek Pagit. I am ending off with this beautiful picture background with the references that I have used for this presentation. The background here is of the lake called Ikalulialak. This lake brings back very fond memories. I went fishing quite a lot during the fall and spring seasons at this lake here. Unfortunately, I can't go there anymore because I'm allergic to fish. However, it's fresh water. It's very beautiful over there, and I hope you liked my presentation, and I hope you like this picture. Koyan Namig, thank you.